Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here. So the Washington Commanders just made a major change. Dan Quinn will be calling defensive plays. Joe Whitt has been demoted to just defensive coordinator without play calling ability. So this change has been made a little bit too late. We also have very, very bad news about one of our rookies. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well. So Trey Amos has, fractured or broken his fibula, so he's certainly out for the season, which really sucks. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but Dan Quinn, and this is going to be a quick video. I got to go to class real quick, but Dan Quinn is taking defensive play calling away from defensive coordinator Joe Whitt, and he's going to do it himself. So it is what it is. I don't really care. I really don't care at this point. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and maybe, I think the defense will be better, but maybe some of these younger players and some of these guys that we kind of maybe not have written off but have soured on a little bit, maybe some of them start to, step up a little bit. But at this point, it's just so late, and I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, especially when literally everyone is hurt. Your top three defensive ends, Trey Amos, your Marshawn Lattimore, so two of your starting cornerbacks, one of your starting safeties. What does Dan Quinn really have to work with in terms of changing the defense around? I don't know. But Joe Whitt, the defense has been bad for a while, so he is not, he is not off the hook here for the Washington Commanders, obviously. And I hope, this is a sign that he's going to be gone after this year, in terms of not being on the Commanders coaching staff. He seems like a good guy, cool, but he's not a good defensive coordinator. He's had 2 years, and both years the defense has been the problem in Washington. And, it got worse from last year to this year with investments into the defense. And yeah, it still got, worse. They drafted a guy in the second round, maybe not first round, but they drafted a guy in the second round in Trey Amos. Their biggest free agency signing was on defense, and they made some other, they traded for Marshawn Lattimore, the trade deadline before. So it's not like they haven't made investments into the defense. And yes, I think they need to make more investments in the defense this offseason for sure, starting with finding an edge rusher opposite Dorrance Armstrong, because I like Dorrance Armstrong. He's one of the only good players, in my opinion, on this defense. But besides that, it's not really, you don't have a lot to work with, especially at the edge rusher position. You need a dog. You need a guy that can be a Pro Bowl and all-pro level player. One of them dudes, one of the top 5 pass rushers in the league. So hopefully you can find that in this year's draft. They, in terms of draft order, they're still not super, super high up there, which is unfortunate. They're going to, if they lose the Dolphins, that will definitely help. And lose the Giants as well, that will definitely help. If they lose out, they'll probably be at around the 5th pick overall is my guess, but they might mess around and win a game, at some point in the season. But yeah, Dan Quinn taking over play calling. We're going to see what happens, but it's going to be, starting with the Dolphins and, in Madrid, and Deron Payne got suspended. Not that I care. He was an idiot for doing that, but I've seen a lot of punches thrown, or at least some punches thrown this year, no suspension. So I'm interested to know why Deron got a suspension for that. Seems just pretty interesting, especially since he got ejected early on in the game. It's not like it was the 4th quarter and he didn't, miss much of the game. No, he missed the whole game. So he already basically lost a full game. So for me, it doesn't really make sense that he got suspended. But, at least compared to how they've been handling everything else in the league. But that's such a small thing for the Commanders. Let's go over Trey Amos real quick. Give a little bit of an update on him. It really sucks, the injury news with him. But real quick, a word from today's sponsor. And a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. The Commanders season isn't going to plan, but Sleeper's still got your back. You can do a free $20 entry on Sleeper. You also can use my code Pedro and get a 100% match up to $100. And link is in the description for that. They got fantasy news, and then they also have picks that you can make to win real money. So make sure you guys check them out. Link in the description. All right, so again, huge shout out to Sleeper. Let's talk about Trey Amos. This really does suck. I'm not going to talk about it too much just because there really is not a lot to talk about. Rookie, second round pick, broke his fibula in the loss against the Lions. That play where, what happened? It was Louvu got hurt, and then Amos got hurt. They scored a touchdown. They scored the 2-point conversion. Deron Payne got ejected. All in that like one play-ish plus the 2-point conversion. So, just not a good play at all for the Washington Commanders. Kind of encompasses the season that they've had, and I'm hoping for the best for Trey Amos. Hopefully, he's able to recover because he's shown some good things. Like the rookie class this year, at first it was doing really well. It's kind of struggled as of late, but Trey Amos has shown some flashes up and down. But for the most part, like I've liked what we've seen from Trey Amos. Obviously, got to see more. I got to show more consistency, but it's also hard in a just awful defense overall. It's really hard to evaluate anyone when you have just a bunch of players and scheme just that's not good. So Trey Amos, again, hopefully he recovers and everything. Fibula, he'll be out for a while, but should be good to go for the start of next season for sure, and probably the start of off-season workouts. At least it's a fibula and it's not actual ligament. That stuff usually takes more time to rehab from and heal overall. So that's at least that's the silver lining there, but obviously it sucks for him for sure. But that is kind of it for today's video. Not good news. Terry McLaurin not going to be he's going to travel but not going to play in the game, and Deron Payne suspended. But again, all that none of that matters. The Commanders, the season's over. The season's over, and I keep telling you guys, and some of you guys still think they can win, and I just see crazy talk on Twitter. I don't know what is happening, but yeah, the season's over, and it's really just about evaluating young players. And I talked about yesterday, I don't think there's a lot of young talent on this team, but one of the guys that I did like is Trey Amos. And not that he's not on the team anymore, but he's injured, which really, really does suck. But thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.